from New York, Mr. LaLota.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Admiral, Doctor, very good for you to be here. Admiral, we're fellow Academy grads too, though. You graduated in the year that I was born, sir, so appreciate you being here. But prior to coming to Congress, Admiral, I was a Navy ship driver, did 3 deployments to the Western Pacific, so I couldn't have chosen a better witness to be at my first HASC hearing, given our mutual service in the same area. Admiral, rather than present another question about the CCP spy balloon, I was hoping that you can share with us, based on your extensive experience in the Pacific, what you think China would do if the shoe was on the other foot. Specifically, what if the U.S. flew a unmanned aerial vehicle over Chinese territorial waters, its land? What would they do? What would go into their decision-making if the shoe was on the other foot, sir?
I think they've been clear about that. I think that they would shoot it down. So the issue is, it's the manned surveillance platforms that are flying in international airspace that we recognize as international airspace that the PRC doesn't. So we don't know what they're going to do in that regard. Hopefully, they won't take kinetic action against a rivet joint or a P-8 or something like that, or a ship sailing in the Taiwan Strait, for example, or FONOP in the Spratly Islands. I'm hopeful and almost certain that the PRC wouldn't take kinetic action, because that would escalate to a completely different order of magnitude. But if we were to fly a surveillance balloon, if we were to fly a weather balloon over Beijing, they would probably shoot it down, especially now.
And why do you suppose that is, sir?
Because we did.
And if it was weeks ago, prior to this incident, and we flew an unmanned vehicle over their territorial waters or land, what do you think their reaction would have been weeks ago?
Potentially different. This is a little bit of tit for tat. And so, they have blustered about our gall as shooting down a weather balloon that went off course, that was flying over sovereign United States airspace. Well, I mean, if it was a weather balloon that went off course, why didn't they warn us, tell us, communicate with us? Sorry about that. We do that with satellites that have fallen out of orbit. We communicate with them, they communicate with us, and we proceed on orders assigned. But here you have this surveillance balloon flying over sovereign U.S. airspace, errantly, coincidentally, over our nuclear sites and other key military facilities. And we're supposed to believe that this is accidental? I mean, it beggars imagination how crazy that is.
Sticking with China's reaction to our actions, rewind the clock 20 years ago, I understand that you were associated with the P3 and EP3 right. platforms. In April of 2001, there was an incident over the Hainan Islands, or around there, I think 70 nautical miles around it. Can you describe to us in this unclassified environment what you understood China's reaction to be then, given a similar incident, but distinction of that being a
so in a nutshell, there was an EP3 flying surveillance mission in the South China Sea. A Chinese surveillance jet, a counter-surveillance jet flew alongside the P3, got too close to it. It was a miscalculation, an error, not an intentional collision. I mean, who would be crazy enough to, collide their airplane into another in peacetime? And it impacted one of the engines on the P3 and the EP3, cut the jet in half. It crashed, the pilot died, and the P3 then had to do a crash landing, emergency landing, on Hainan Island. Now, was that a smart thing to do or a dumb thing to do? Well, the week before, that very squadron had flown the 7th Fleet commander to Beijing. Treated well, happy to have him there and all of that. So they were, the crew thought, well, yeah, we're friends with China. And so they had an emergency, a legitimate emergency, and there was a runway, the closest runway, so they elected to crash land the EP3 on that runway. Right decision, wrong decision, it's enough for me to say, but that's what happened.
Thanks for your insights, Admiral. I yield back.
Chair, and I recognize the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Davis, for 5 minutes.